What's up, everybody? Whoa, come on. You guys good?
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Cool to see you guys here today. This past part of the OTAs for this week, it's our practice number 7, 8, and 9 of this spring. We added the 11-on-11 elements, to the team portion. So that was a good process for us to go to. We did a bunch. It was just 7-on-7, a lot of skill work. We're still hitting the skill work hard now, but getting everybody together as a whole group, that's been really fun. You'll see a lot of kickoff and kickoff return going on today as well, and we're still digging in and researching it and finding all that. So it's a fun week.
You guys had to make a change at kicker. If you can just kind of walk through that whole decision and the decision to let go of Brandon and
sure.
then signing the new guy.
Yeah, and I think number one, I think you guys would all understand this is under investigation, so I can't comment a lot. But what I can say is a little bit about what I told the team, and I think like most things, not necessarily related to this, but as a lesson, let's make sure you always let somebody know and tell. There's usually a whole bunch of people that want to be part of the solution. And so when you have that, whether that's for this team or any team or a parent, that kind of communication allows you to come up with some solutions. So like I said, not specific to this, but it was just a good lesson to always have that conversation. It's usually much more difficult in your head than it is really having the actual conversation. And so just wanted to make sure I got a lesson out to the guys as we're going through it. So we did release, Brandon, I found out some of the information on May 27th, and then we released him on June the 3rd.
And then switching to the offensive line, like a lot of talk about that. You have four new starters, some young guys there. What can you guys, first of all, what can you guys do as coaches to kind of help that process? And what things can you look for now? Because like you said, you want to see them in pads, but what do you look for now that shows maybe growth or whatever?
Yeah, I think first part, like think about walk, crawl, run, like how are we doing the meetings first, in the system and the learning. And so there's walkthroughs. In other words, assignment-wise and targeting, are we in the right spot? We may not be able to assess all the physical things we want right now, but there's still a lot to assess, all the individual skill work. And so where are they at big picture-wise, playbook, where are we at doing the individual skill work, and then the last piece, like you said, will really come at that position, offensive and defensive line. The evaluation's much more critical for the physical part once we get to the pads in that portion of the training camp, and so we'll have a good long window to compete with a number of guys and get to the bottom of it.
Can I go back real quick just to clarify? Were you guys aware at all of the allegations or the alleged incident before you signed Brandon?
First was May 27th.
Dan, with Jaden continuing to grow, continuing to learn over these last couple of weeks, any specific examples that you've seen that's really stood out to you to be like, yeah, he's starting to get it, he's starting to grasp, he's starting to go to another level?
Yeah, I think the situation work we've been working really hard on, and so some of the timing and mechanics are different from college in a 2-minute setting than it is in the NFL. And so to see every day him going through those mechanics at a 2-minute, so the other day of at the end of the half working down in a clock situation where it's still moving on a first down, and so like that type of urgency, and so seeing him being comfortable in that environment, I would say that's one example of many that shows the work that he's putting in.
Over the course of this next week and a half, pretty important because after next week, they go on their summer break. What are some of the key elements, key important things you're trying to drill home to your team before this final stretch run here?
Yeah, we're trying to work the situation side of the game as much as we can, and knowing that about 70% of our league, the games are 8 points or less, and so it kind of speaks to the importance of what can happen at the end of the half or the end of the game, and so much of that can tie in to special teams and how you're working that part of things. So all 3 phases working together, and so we're really trying to dig in on those. We're getting a lot of reps inside and some jog throughs on the system offensively and defensively, but being outside and the timing elements of situations, those are harder to walk through, because these 7 seconds have to be done and executed at a really high pace. So we've been really pleased with the work that the guys have been putting into that spot.
Dan, it looks like you and Adam really value positional size across the board, but outside, your corners traditionally have been bigger guys. So with a guy like Emmanuel, who's got obviously a very unique skill set, but is on the smaller side, how do you work with him and work around whatever physical limitations he have, or do you even see him as having physical limitations with his build?
The first part is really, the ball skills. And at that spot, to be able to turn the ball over as a defense, that's something that you really want. And that's I would say, his superpower, and the thing that he was so strong at. And so from there, you look for length. And so it doesn't always necessarily mean the size to it. And he's bigger than he was, for sure. He's worked hard on that this offseason to see that weight going up. But the length and the ball skills at that position, outside on that freeway, there's some real athletes. And you're just seeing more of this happen. You see some of the big numbers at contracts at receiver and corners. And so that position alone, man, it really calls for athleticism, the ball skills, and having that length to be able to defend some of the bigger players.
And then generally, how do you work with Chad and his staff to kind of get guys where you want them, both from a build standpoint, but then a physical trait standpoint?
Yeah, and so that's the good part of assessing every player. Not one size fits all, from their body composition to where they're at. And so each player will have a specific weight and a goal that they're trying to work towards. And so it's not one size fits all. In other words, they have to be between 180 or 190. It's really customized to the player. And that way, we'll find what's best for them.
You said 7, 8, and 9. Anything surprised you in this process with these guys who are dealing with an entirely new coaching staff?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say surprised is the right word, but man, I felt like the intent of improving. And really, that's what this time of year is for, not just for a ball player, but for coaches too. To say all of us, collectively are getting better as we're going. I expect to see that more this week and then next week into our mini camp. But that's really what this week is setting us up for, is to get into next week. It'll be more of a traditional in-season type of schedule on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday, which, in a normal NFL week for a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll model some of that and some of the things that we would work on during those spaces. So that's what we're looking to, to gain out of it. But more than anything, man, I felt like an incredible work ethic to get better.
And historically, as a coach, guys who are playing for that next contract, you got a guy like Jamin Davis who's got to do that.
Yep.
Have you noticed a change historically with players that are doing that, and what do you need to see from him in order for him to get to that next level?
I think that's a natural question, at the end of a contract or you're in a contract year, and what does that look like? But more important even than that is like this improvement, and we're trying to really push him specifically on the versatility. So you'll see him working some with the defensive line. You'll see him working with Ryan Kerrigan on the side. And we're adding, parts to his game that maybe we didn't use, and we're certainly trying to explore that. And so if that's something that he can add value for himself and for the team, then we'll dig in. And that'll take a while as well. That's not something that's in one practice or in 1 week to say, okay, it's there. Let's take the time and work through it. And I've been very impressed by his work ethic.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, you and Adam Peters and ownership inherited the history of this franchise under previous ownership. You were a part of it. But when a situation like this arises where those kind of allegations, does it impact your decision making?
I said it earlier, that's nothing that we can comment on. There's an investigation that's ongoing. So what we always want to do, like in all the spaces and all the, the players, let's have open communication. And that's what we're trying to dig into and find. And like I said earlier, a lot of people want to be a part of the solution. Our team has an army of support, like most teams do. And so that communication, that's a critical piece of it.
Coach, as you look forward in the minicamp next week, how advantageous is it as a staff to have so many people present for the voluntary portion?
Well, it's been this way the whole session, and it's been exciting because now you can try different people at different spots. Maybe some matchups that you want to see. Okay, some man coverage versus zone. How is that look going to go? The competition during this phase of spring football is certainly different than it is in training camp. It's speed, it's your execution, but not the physicality. So we don't want to go too far in the evaluation physically, because so much of this evaluation is assignment, where we're at, the communication. If we get that part right, then we know when we get to camp, we'll really let it rip. But getting the part of the communication, the speed right, then we can add the last element to it.
And then as a coaching staff with people coming, obviously some of you know each other from the past, but some of you don't. How do you feel the unison in the staff is coming together as a group?
And that part's been fun. That's one of the great parts about our game is like it's always evolving and changing. And so what has been good, it started probably, I recognized it during free agency, where people had different backgrounds, had even been around different players. And so that carried into the draft, and now we're able to share ideas on the things. And so planning for a mini camp or planning for a training camp, it's very easy now to ask, Lynn or Cliff, let's compare what was good, what'd you like, what could we do differently. So those are questions that's nice to have somebody right there to discuss with, and so that part's been exceptional for us.
With the new bubble, does that change your thinking on how you handle that specific play? Do you use it
Yes, that's how we're at right now, unless somebody emerges in one of these specific tryouts that they've got real punt, pass, kick background as a child. But right now, yeah, that's how we're leaning towards it. The fun part about this, Nikki, is like there's a lot of exploring going on. And you'll see some things today that might be a little bit different than Friday. And that's kind of the fun part about a new challenge, a new thing to go. And so at one time we didn't throw the forward pass, so that worked out pretty good.
So
we'll see
from
where
a
it goes.
football perspective, though, McManus was here to be the kicker. Now you sign Ahmed. Like, how is that going to impact the roster? Do you have to sign a place kicker also, or how does it go forward?
No, he kicks and kickoffs, the whole thing. Like he's a
You-
full-fledged kicker.
Okay, do you expect it to be a competition, though, or is
Yeah,
Ahmed
we're
your
going to
guy?
compete at every spot. It's one of the cool parts about like Adam and his staff. Like we're going to dig forever, and not just a kicker, but like at every spot. And so, like that's what our whole program is based on, is the competition. And so that being the central theme, that goes through kicker, that goes through quarterback, that goes through center, that goes through linebacker to corner to everywhere. And so, having Adam and his staff always digging and looking. That's what it's about. But it's also moments like this that guys get their opportunity, and when they do, a lot of times, people have been waiting for that shot, that moment, and we take it from there. So we have fresh eyes on somebody when they come in, and then we do the evaluation, as opposed to looking way far down the line. I recognize that's part of your job to look down there, but I try to put that off and just have fresh eyes for the moment and the player and what we think he can do.
We didn't have a chance to ask you last week about the report that they could be moving this part of the schedule, the OTA schedule, up towards training camp and changed all that. What do you kind of make of that, compressing it that way?
I don't have a lot of details on that, but what I can say, if it's something that, from a player standpoint, it's better, there's, health-related reasons behind it, we'll find a way. And the teaching is the big piece. I would imagine there's probably some guidelines that you want for the new player who's learning a system, much different than like an NBA team that may keep a group from a year, maybe one new player into the next. You're adding a lot of players every year. So as long as there was some teaching elements to get the system down, I have full confidence. This is not the old days where you get to training camp to get in shape. These guys are really ready. And so whatever guidelines are there, that's good. I know there's some push for an 18th game, which I think there's a lot of fun for that too. But until then, we'll play it out like we got it.
And your safety tandem, Quan Martin, Jeremy Chin, I'm not assuming that they're the starters, but the guys who may be in that role, just what have been your early impressions of them, and how do you kind of see them merging together as a duo there?
Yeah, and we'll also play where there's 3 safeties on the field at times, and that position has some flow to it. Quan's got experience at playing nickel and down and in by the line of scrimmage. Jeremy can come from the top down and play over tight end. So they're unique things that they have. That's what this part of the year is for, is to find those unique things. But I've been really impressed by the two of them, their communication together. But they're not the only ones. You're seeing different guys and different combinations, and we'll continue to do that.
Hey, Dan, I know you guys were on different sides of the ball in Dallas, but Tyler Biotish, having a guy like him here so far, what have you seen from him? How has he kind of meshed with the offense, the offensive line with the team?
Yeah, I think having Badass here, working with him for 3 years, I knew not only, the ball player, but I knew, the person under the helmet. I knew what was behind the ribcage for him, his toughness. I saw, him with a bad ankle playing. Like, I knew how tough this guy was and what an important teammate he was. And so for him to be around guys like Zach Martin and Tyron Smith that had incredible standards, guys like Nick Allegretti and Tyler to join into here, it's fun to see new leaders emerge into different spots, and I think we're seeing that with Tyler.
And real quick, Jaden throwing out the first pitch of the Nats game coming up this weekend. Have you ever thrown out a first pitch? Do you have any tips for him?
We had a big discussion about that just yesterday, so all eyes are on that first pitch, and I asked if there was going to be some practice involved going out there. Oh, no doubt about it. So, yeah, we're expecting him to rip a strike on that one.
Awesome. Thank you.
This one here, what field? No, I'm just kidding. The good news, turf field had been here a long time that we didn't utilize, and so let's give some props to Josh and to his team of recognizing when things have to change, for the betterment of these players, that he's going to find a way to do that. And that's his pack to the guys, and knowing that, like, there's a way to dig in to let them know that he's going to, turn over every rock, so to speak, to make this experience as strong as it could be. manner. We're appreciative of that. So it'll be another grass field that we'll have here, and hopefully that'll be by the end of training camp. Around that's a timeline for that as we're going forward. But yeah, it's pretty cool thing to see that when there's a chance to do it a little better, and obviously you see a lot of construction going on here, and taking that shot to do it, we've got a lot of appreciation for Josh and his team of what they're trying to accomplish here. All right, you guys have a good one. See ya.